A 17-year-old girl, clutching a cello case, hands her first-class ticket to the gate agent. The agent looks from the ticket to the girl's black face and back to the ticket, before letting out a laugh. "Honey, this is first class. Are you lost?" The girl politely says the ticket is hers. The agent's smile turns to ice. "There is zero chance this is your ticket. Where did you really get it?" But what this agent doesn't know, as she doubles down on her cruel mockery, is that the woman in the simple sweater watching from 5 feet away isn't just the girl's mother. She's the CEO of the entire airline. The chaos of JFK's Terminal 4 was a familiar kind of music to Maya Reed. It was a symphony of rolling suitcases, garbled final boarding calls, and the sharp, anxious scent of spilled coffee and jet fuel. At 17, Maya was already a seasoned traveler. But today was different. Today, the weight on her back wasn't just her backpack. It was the colossal, fiberglass cello case she lovingly called Bertha. And the destination wasn't just a vacation. It was the final audition for the Juilliard School. Her life had been a crescendo, leading to this single moment. Practice, school, practice, competitions, practice. Every minute of her existence had been meticulously scheduled, her path curated by her mother, a woman who understood precision better than anyone. Her mother, Dr. Evelyn Reed, was sitting 20 feet away, deliberately separate. She was engrossed in a thick, hardback book, her face relaxed. She was dressed in worn-in jeans, a simple navy blue cashmere sweater, and comfortable flats. She looked like a college professor on sabbatical, not the chief executive officer of Trans Global Air, one of the largest airlines in the world. This was one of her incognito trips, as she called them. She insisted on flying commercial, often in coach, to see the real texture of her company. Today, however, was a concession. For the Juilliard audition, she had booked them in first class, not just for comfort, but for necessity. Maya's ticket was 1A. Her cello, which required its own seat, was ticketed as Cello Reed in 1C. "This is your moment, Maya," Evelyn had told her that morning in the car. "You're flying to your future. I want you to handle the check-in, the gate, everything. You're an adult now. I'll just be your shadow." Maya appreciated the trust, but her stomach was still doing nervous backflips. She approached the gate for Trans Global Flight 101 to Los Angeles. The first-class boarding lane was short, monitored by a gate agent who looked like she'd been chewing on lemons. The agent's name tag read Sandra. She had sharp, peroxided blonde hair pulled into a painfully tight bun, and her red lipstick was applied with a severe precision that matched her scowl. She was snapping at a passenger in the economy line, her voice cutting through the terminal noise. "Sir, if the bag doesn't fit in the sizer, it doesn't fit. I am not having this argument again." "Next." Maya waited patiently. When it was her turn, she stepped forward and placed her passport and boarding pass on the counter. Sandra didn't look up for a full 10 seconds, furiously typing. Finally, she sighed, as if Maya's very presence was an inconvenience. "Yes?" "Hi, I'm just checking in for Flight 101, Maya said, her voice soft. Sandra snatched the boarding pass. She looked at the 1A printed in bold. She looked at Maya's face, taking in her dark skin, her neat braids, and her simple, comfortable travel clothes. A Howard University sweatshirt and leggings. A small, disbelieving laugh escaped Sandra's lips. "Oh, honey, you're in the wrong line," Sandra said, her voice dripping with a condescending sweetness. "This is for first class boarding only. The general boarding line is back there. You'll board with Group 5. Maya felt a hot flush of embarrassment creep up her neck. "No, I think this is correct. My seat is 1A. Sandra's painted-on smile froze. She leaned forward, lowering her voice to a theatrical, conspiratorial whisper. "Sweetheart, let's not play games. I've been doing this for 20 years. People like you don't just happen to be in 1A. Did your employer buy this for you? Are you the nanny?" "No," Maya said, her voice firmer now. "I'm traveling with my mother. This is my ticket." "Right." Sandra's eyes narrowed. She took the boarding pass and scanned it. The system beeped, confirming the seat. This only seemed to infuriate her. "Well, the ticket might be real, but I'm guessing you've never seen the inside of a first-class cabin. Let me give you a tip. We don't allow." She gestured vaguely at Maya's cello. "That. It has its own ticket," Maya explained, her patience wearing thin. "It's seat 1C. Cello reed. It's airline policy. I've flown with it dozens of times." Sandra let out a full, barking laugh this time. "Cello reed? That's a new one. That is absolutely the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard." She shook her head, as if Maya were a child telling a tall tale. "Look, I don't know what scam you and your mother are trying to pull, but it's not happening on my flight. That thing can go with cargo. And as for you," she held up the 1A boarding pass, pinching it between two fingers as if it were soiled. "I'm going to need to see some serious identification, and you'd better have the credit card that purchased this ticket, because right now I'm seeing a stolen ticket and an attempt to smuggle oversized baggage." The line behind Maya was growing. A man in a tailored suit looked annoyed. A family was shifting impatiently. From the seating area, Evelyn Reed slowly, deliberately, folded the corner of the page in her book. The public nature of the confrontation was the worst part. Every eye in the gate area was now fixed on Maya. She felt like a specimen under a microscope. Sandra, feeding off the attention, seemed to relish her role as the gate's inquisitor. "Well," Sandra demanded, tapping her acrylic nails on the counter, "the credit card? Or did Mommy give it to you?" "My mother is right over there," Maya said, gesturing toward Evelyn, who was now standing up, slipping her book into her bag. "And I have my ID." Maya slid her driver's license across the counter. Sandra inspected it, holding it up to the light as if it were a suspected counterfeit bill. "Maya Reed," she read aloud. "Fine. This matches." She tossed the ID back. "But that doesn't explain how you," she stressed the word, "ended up with a $7,000 premium ticket. These are usually reserved for our platinum executive clients, not students." "I'm a minor. My mother purchased the ticket," Maya said, her voice shaking slightly. The humiliation was turning to anger. "And she also purchased the seat for my cello, as per Transglobal's own published policy for valuable instruments." "Policy?" Sandra scoffed, her face twisting into a mask of pure derision. "I am the policy at this gate. What I say goes. And I'm telling you, there is no cello reed in my system." She aggressively typed on her keyboard. "Nope, nothing. Just 1A Maya Reed. And 1C is blocked." "It's blocked because it was purchased for the instrument," Maya insisted, her voice rising. "Can you please check the passenger manifest, under the name Reed?" "I don't need to check anything," Sandra snapped. Her eyes were cold, devoid of any empathy. "I've seen your type before. You try to bend the rules, you plead ignorance, you cause a scene, and you hope we'll just give in to get you on the plane. It's not happening. Not today." She pointed a long, red-tipped finger at the cello case. "This is your options. You can check that thing into the hold where it belongs, or you can forfeit your flight. And frankly, given the suspicious nature of this ticket, I am this close," she held her thumb and forefinger a millimeter apart, "to cancelling your seat anyway and calling Port Authority police to report ticket fraud." The threat hung in the air, heavy and toxic, calling the police. On a 17-year-old girl trying to get to an audition. A man in the first-class line, behind Maya, Robert Fields, a partner at a downtown law firm, finally spoke up. "Excuse me, miss. The girl has a valid ticket and ID, and the airline does allow for instrument seats. I've seen it myself. You're being completely unreasonable." Sandra wheeled on him. "Sir, this is an official airline matter. Stay out of it, or I'll have you removed from the flight as well for interfering with a gate agent." Robert Fields recoiled, his face hardening. He didn't say another word, but he conspicuously pulled out his phone and began to record. Sandra, blinded by her power trip, didn't even notice. She turned back to Maya with a sickeningly triumphant smile. "So, what's it going to be, dear? Are you going to fly, or are you going to jail?" Maya was trembling, tears of pure rage and helplessness burning in her eyes. She wouldn't cry. She wouldn't give this woman the satisfaction. She opened her mouth to speak, to fight, to say something. But she didn't have to. A calm, quiet voice cut through the tension. "That will be quite enough." Evelyn Reed had walked up beside her daughter, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. She was no longer the relaxed academic. Her posture was rigid, her eyes fixed on Sandra with an intensity that was almost frightening. Sandra looked Evelyn up and down, taking in the jeans and the simple sweater. Her lip curled. "Oh, good. Mommy is here. Are you the one who bought this ticket?" "I am," Evelyn said, her voice dangerously level. "Then you can explain this cello reed fantasy," Sandra sneered. "It's not a fantasy. It is a standard procedure, processed by our special accommodations desk," Evelyn stated. "I booked it myself. You will find the $4,200 charge for the second seat on the same corporate card as the first. Now, I suggest you check your system again. Perhaps under the PNR reference? Or would you like me to give it to you?" Sandra was taken aback by the woman's sudden, articulate authority. But she'd gone too far to back down. "Don't you quote procedures to me. I don't care if you booked it on a corporate card. I'm the final authority at this gate, and I am telling you, this plane is not taking off with a violin case in a first-class seat." "It's a cello," Maya whispered, insulted. "Whatever," Sandra shrieked. "It's not coming. I'm cancelling both your tickets for non-compliance. You can take it up with customer service." She reached for her mouse, her finger hovering over the cancel reservation button. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," Evelyn said. Her voice had dropped to a whisper, yet it seemed to echo in the suddenly silent terminal. "And why not?" Sandra challenged, her eyes glittering with malice. "Because if you click that button, it will be the last action you ever take as an employee of this airline." Sandra froze. The sheer, unadulterated confidence in Evelyn's voice finally penetrated her rage. Who in the hell do you think you are?" Evelyn Reed didn't answer. Instead, she looked past Sandra, her eyes locking on the station manager, James Harrison, who had just walked out of the JetBridge office. He was a portly man, his tie loosened, holding a coffee. "James!" Evelyn called out. Her voice was no longer quiet. It was a command. James Harrison, hearing his name, looked over. He saw Sandra. He saw the two passengers. His eyes went wide. The coffee cup slipped from his hand, splashing across the pristine floor. "Dr. Reed," he stammered, his face instantly draining of all color. He sprinted to the counter, fumbling, terrified. "Dr. Reed, I had no idea you were traveling today. Whoa, what is going on?" Sandra's world tilted on its axis. She stared, dumbfounded, at her boss, who was now frantically wiping at the non-existent coffee on his shirt, bowing and scraping before this woman in the jeans. "Dr. Reed?" Sandra repeated, her voice a small, confused squeak. "James, who is this?" James Harrison looked at Sandra with a new kind of expression, one of pure, unadulterated terror, which was quickly being replaced by a boiling rage. You absolute idiot!" he hissed under his breath. He then plastered a panicked smile back on his face, turning to Evelyn. "Dr. Reed, please, accept my deepest apologies. Is this agent bothering you?" "Bothering me?" Evelyn's laugh was short and brittle, holding no humor. "Mr. Harrison, your agent, Sandra, has just publicly accused my 17-year-old daughter of ticket fraud. She has threatened to call the Port Authority police on her. She has refused to honor a fully paid, multi-thousand-dollar instrument ticket, calling it a fantasy. And she has done it all, I can only assume, based on the fact that my daughter is a young black woman." Evelyn's voice was clear, professional, and utterly devastating. Each word was a nail in Sandra's coffin. The other passengers, including Robert Fields, who was still filming, were listening, mouths agape. Sandra turned pale. The fake tan on her cheeks stood out against her suddenly grey skin. "No, I didn't. I was just following procedure. The ticket. It looked suspicious. And the cello. I didn't see the ticket." "You didn't look," Evelyn corrected her, her voice like steel. "You mocked. You accused. You humiliated. You used your position of minimal authority to bully a child. And in doing so, you have created an incident that is not only a catastrophic failure of customer service, but a massive legal liability for this company." "Company?" Sandra whispered, the pieces clicking into place with a horrifying, sickening finality. Who are you?" James Harrison looked like he was about to be physically ill. "Sandra," he choked out, "this is Dr. Evelyn Reed. She is the Chief Executive Officer of Trans Global Air. This is her airline." The silence that followed was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop on the carpeted floor. Sandra's jaw unhinged slightly. Her eyes, wide with shock, darted from Evelyn's implacable face to James's terrified one, and then to Maya, who was now standing tall beside her mother, the shame replaced by a cold, quiet anger. "C-E-O?" Sandra stammered. The word seemed foreign in her mouth. No, you're lying. She's in jeans." "My attire," Evelyn said flatly, "is irrelevant. What is relevant is your conduct. You are the face of this airline, Sandra, and the face you've just shown is one of bigotry, incompetence, and malice." Evelyn turned to her shaking station manager. "James, get this person off my gate. Now, have security escort her to your office. She is suspended, effective immediately, pending a full investigation. Revoke her SOIDA badge and all system access. She is not to interact with another passenger. Am I clear?" "Yes, Dr. Reed, absolutely. Crystal clear." James scrambled, grabbing his radio. "I need security at B-23, non-compliant employee. Immediately," Sandra finally snapped. The terror was replaced by a desperate, pleading hysteria. "No, please, wait, I have kids. It was a mistake. I'm stressed. The flight is overweight. I didn't mean it. Please, I'll apologize." She turned to Maya, her eyes swimming with manufactured tears. "I'm so sorry, miss. I made a terrible mistake. Please tell your mother. I'm not a racist. I'm not." Maya just looked at her, her expression unreadable. "You called me a liar. You threatened to have me arrested. You did that because you didn't think I belonged. But I was wrong. I was wrong," Sandra cried, reaching out to grab Evelyn's arm. Evelyn recoiled as if she'd been touched by a snake. "Do not touch me. Your apology is rejected. It's not for me to accept. It's for the dozens of other passengers I am now certain you have treated this way. the ones who didn't have the CEO standing behind them. 2 airport security officers arrived, looking confused. James Harrison pointed at the weeping gate agent. "Please escort Miss Vickers to the station office. She is being relieved of duty." As the officers gently but firmly took Sandra by the arms, she had one last, spiteful outburst. "You're ruining my life. All of this. Over one stupid mistake. You'll regret this. You'll see." She was led away, her sobs and threats echoing down the hall. The gate was silent. James Harrison, sweating profusely, turned back to Evelyn. "Dr. Reed, I cannot express how sorry I am. Please let me personally escort you and your daughter onto the aircraft." Evelyn held up a hand. "We will board." "But you and I are not finished, James. Your agent's behavior is a reflection of her training and her management. And your reaction tells me you're more scared of me than you are of the fact that this happened. We will be discussing your future with this company as well." She then turned to the other passengers. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the delay. We will begin boarding immediately." She looked at Robert Fields, who slowly lowered his phone. She nodded at him, a silent acknowledgement. "Thank you for your patience." She put her arm around Maya. "Come on, baby. Let's get you to your audition." They walked down the jet bridge, leaving a terrified station manager and a gate full of stunned passengers in their wake. The atmosphere in the first-class cabin of the Airbus A321 was thick with a new kind of tension. The flight attendants, who had clearly been alerted via their onboard systems, were standing at rigid attention. The lead purser, a kind-faced man named David, greeted them with a look of profound apology. "Dr. Reed, Ms. Reed, welcome aboard," David said, his voice hushed. "Please let me help you with your cello. We have seat 1C prepared exactly as you requested." He expertly secured the instrument case into the seat, handling it with the care one would afford a priceless artifact. "Can I get you both a pre-departure beverage? Champagne? Water?" "Water for my daughter. I'll have a black coffee, please," Evelyn said, sliding into seat 1D, across the aisle from Maya. As they settled in, Maya finally let out a shaky breath she felt she'd been holding for 10 minutes. "Mom, that was unacceptable," Evelyn said, her voice low and simmering. She had taken out her phone and was typing with a speed that was almost violent. "And it's not over." "What are you going to do?" Maya asked. "What I have to do," Evelyn said, her eyes dark. "Sandra is a symptom, Maya. Not the disease. The disease is the culture that allowed her to feel that comfortable being that hateful." The plane door closed, and the aircraft began its taxi to the runway. But Evelyn Reed was not in travel mode. She was in war mode. She paid for the most expensive in-flight Wi-Fi package and connected her laptop. The moment they were above 10,000 feet, her cabin became a mobile command center. Her first email was to Angela Ramirez, the Executive Vice President of Human Resources. Subject: urgent, forced termination. Sandra Vickers, JFK, bias incident. Body: Angela, I was just the victim of a blatant racial profiling incident at JFK T4, Gate B23, by a gate agent named Sandra Vickers. My daughter was the primary target. The agent was abusive, discriminatory, and threatened to call law enforcement. I have suspended her. I want her file on my desk before we land. I want a full history of every complaint ever filed against her, and I want to know who signed off on her last performance review. This is a code red. Her second email was to Mark Larson, the COO. Subject: operational failure. JFK Station. Body: Mark, I am on Flight 101. The station manager, James Harrison, has lost control of his terminal. He was complicit in his silence, until I identified myself. I want a full audit of the JFK T4 passenger complaint logs for the last 24 months. I want to cross-reference every bias-related complaint with the agents on duty and the managers who resolved them. I suspect James Harrison has been burying these to keep his on-time numbers clean. I want his employment history as well. This is our flagship station, and it's rotten. The replies came within minutes. Her executive team, scattered across the country, snapped to attention. From mocha.ramirez@transglobal.com. My God, Evelyn. Pulling the file now, stand by. From mark.larson@transglobal.com. Unacceptable. I am dispatching the East Coast Regional Director to JFK immediately to take interim control of the station. Pulling the logs. I'll have a preliminary report for you by landing. For the next 4 hours, as the plane cruised over America, Evelyn and her team conducted a silent, high-altitude investigation. The purser, David, kept her coffee cup full, his face a mask of quiet professionalism, while occasionally offering Maya a kind smile or an extra snack. The files that landed in Evelyn's inbox were horrifying. Sandra Vickers was not a first-time offender. She was a serial abuser. Her file was a litany of passenger complaints, almost all of them with a similar theme, accusing passengers of color of fraud, denying boarding to families with crying children, and abusing her authority over baggage. But the most damning part was the resolution column. Complaint 9/14/2024. Agent was hostile, accused me of smelling like curry. Resolution, coaching session provided. J. Harrison, complaint 12/02/2024. Agent refused to let my elderly mother pre-board, called her slow. Resolution, verbal warning. J. Harrison. Complaint 03/17/2025. Agent Vickers pulled my son, a person with autism, out of line and shouted at him. Resolution. Agent reassigned to different gate. J. Harrison. Over and over, James Harrison had not fired her. He had coached her, warned her, moved her. He had protected her. He had buried the complaints to avoid an HR investigation that might hurt his station's metrics. Evelyn felt a cold dread. This was her company. This was happening on her watch. Just then, her phone buzzed with a text from her head of communications. PR team. Evelyn, we have a problem. A video of the incident at B-23 is going viral. A passenger named Robert Fields just posted it. It's bad. The audio is crystal clear. Where did you really get it? People like you. It's all there. The media is already calling. Evelyn stared at the text. She looked over at Maya, who had fallen into a fitful sleep, her headphones on, her face still etched with the day's stress. Good, Evelyn typed back. Let it go viral. Send a car to LAX for me. I'm not going to the hotel. I'm going straight to the LAX Operations Center. And get the legal team ready. We're not just firing 2 people. We're changing the company. When Flight 101 touched down at LAX, Evelyn Reed was the first person off the plane. She gave Maya a tight hug. There's a car waiting for you, separate from mine. It will take you to your hotel. Get some rest. The Juilliard representative is expecting you tomorrow. Go and be brilliant. Don't you worry about this. Are you sure, Mum? Maya asked, her eyes searching her mother's face. I have never been more sure of anything, Evelyn replied. I love you. Now go. I have to clean my house. As Maya was whisked away, Evelyn strode into the LAX Operations Center, a vast, glass-walled room overlooking the tarmac. Her West Coast team, already assembled, stood as she entered. They all had the ashen look of people who had seen the viral video. Sit, she commanded, taking the head of the conference table. Angela, Mark, you're on speakerphone. Report. For the next 2 hours, the hard karma began, and it was far deeper than one gate agent's job. Angela, Status on Sandra Vickers, Evelyn started. Termination papers are drawn up, Angela's voice crackled. For cause, gross misconduct, discrimination, and violation of TransGlobal's core values. She forfeits all severance, and her unvested stock options are clawed back. Her union rep is fighting it, but the video evidence is definitive. She's done. Good, Evelyn said. Now, James Harrison. Mark Larson spoke. Evelyn, the audit of his station is sickening. He's been running a performance at all costs operation. He systematically suppressed bias complaints to protect his on-time departure performance, which is tied to his 7-figure annual bonus. He didn't just miss Sandra's behavior, he actively enabled it. Then his termination is also for cause, Evelyn declared. Fraud, falsifying performance records, gross negligence, no severance, no bonus. I want our legal team to explore clawing back last year's bonus as well. And I want a full top-to-bottom external audit of every station manager in our system. Any other James Harrisons are to be rooted out. A nervous silence filled the room. This was a purge. Next, Evelyn continued, the video, our PR response. Her VP of Communications, a woman named Chloe, spoke up. Evelyn, the standard playbook is to issue a statement. We are appalled, investigating, does not reflect our values, committed to diversity. We can have it out in 20 minutes. No, Evelyn said. That's a coward's response. That's what James Harrison would do. That's a lie. The video does reflect our values because we allowed it to happen. She stood and began to pace. Here is what we are going to do. We are not hiding. I want a press conference scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow, here at LAX. I will be reading the statement. Chloe looked stunned. You personally? Evelyn, the board will. The lawyers will advise against putting you in the line of fire. I am the line of fire, Evelyn shot back. I am the CEO. This happened on my watch. I will not send a spokesperson to clean up my mess. I will own it. I will apologize to my daughter and to every passenger who has seen that video. And then I will tell them exactly how I'm going to fix it. How are we fixing it? The VP of Operations asked timidly. We are ripping out our entire customer-facing training module, Evelyn announced. It's clearly garbage. It's a check-the-box, online PowerPoint that people click through while watching Netflix. As of today, it's defunct. She turned to Angela. Angela, I want you to find the best, most aggressive, and most effective anti-bias, anti-racism, and de-escalation training firm in the country. I don't care what it costs. And this training will not be online. It will be mandatory, in person, for all 40,000 of our customer-facing employees. From our gate agents, to our pilots, to our flight attendants. And the first people to take the class will be me, you, Mark, and every other person at this table. She slammed her hand on the table, making the coffee cups jump. We will recertify every single employee. Anyone who fails or who doesn't believe in it can find a new career. We will make this right. This will not happen again. The 9 a.m. press conference was a media circus. The video of Sandra mocking Maya had been viewed over 50 million times, replayed on every major news network. TransGlobal CEO's daughter was the #1 trending topic worldwide. The company's stock was in a free fall. Evelyn Reed walked to the podium, not in her usual power suit, but in a simple, professional black dress. She looked tired, but her eyes were firm. She didn't read from a teleprompter. Good morning. Yesterday, at our flagship terminal at JFK, a 17-year-old girl was racially profiled, humiliated, and threatened by a TransGlobal gate agent. That 17-year-old girl was my daughter. The woman standing with her was me, her mother, and the CEO of this airline. The camera shutters were deafening. I am not here today to talk about a rogue employee. Sandra Vickers was terminated. The station manager who enabled and concealed her behavior, James Harrison, has also been terminated. This is not about two employees. This is about a systemic failure. A failure of our culture, our training, and our leadership. A failure that I, as CEO, am ultimately responsible for. She didn't make excuses. She didn't minimize. She laid the company's failings bare. To my daughter Maya, I apologize, not as her mother, but as the leader of the company that caused her pain. And to every single customer who has ever felt less than while flying with us, I apologize to you. You deserved better. We failed you. Then she laid out her plan. The external audit of all station managers, the complete overhaul of their training, the new mandatory in-person certification for all 40,000 employees, the creation of a new independent passenger advocacy office with a direct line to the executive team to investigate every single bias complaint. This will be expensive, she concluded. It will be difficult, and it will be non-negotiable. We are not just aiming to be a better airline. We are going to rebuild our company to be one that is worthy of your trust. Thank you. She took no questions. The hard karma for Sandra Vickers was swift and absolute. Fired for cause, her name was blacklisted in the interconnected databases that airlines and the TSA use. Her SIDA badge, her key to any airport job in the country, was permanently revoked. She lost her flight benefits, her unvested pension, and her career. She tried to sue TransGlobal for wrongful termination, but the moment her lawyer saw the viral video and the internal file of her past offenses, he dropped the case. The last anyone heard, she was working as a part-time cashier at a convenience store far from any airport. James Harrison, the manager, fared no better. He was fired for cause, and TransGlobal's legal team did, in fact, initiate a clawback lawsuit for his bonuses, citing his fraudulent performance reports. He was professionally disgraced, a pariah in the aviation industry. For TransGlobal, the next 6 months were brutal. The stock plummeted. The media was relentless. The mandatory training cost the company over $150 million in implementation and lost time. But Evelyn held the line. She and her executive team were the first to sit through the new 8-hour in-person training, which was run by a high-profile racial justice advocacy group. Slowly, the ship began to turn. Employees who had been silent for years began to use the new advocacy line, rooting out other Sandras and Jameses. The company's culture, once focused solely on on-time performance, shifted to passenger safety and respect. And Robert Fields, the man who filmed the video, was contacted by Evelyn personally. She thanked him. His law firm was so impressed by her handling of the crisis that they signed a new 8-figure corporate travel contract with TransGlobal. The year that followed was not one of easy victory, but of brutal, grinding change. For Maya, the audition at Juilliard, less than 24 hours after the incident, became the defining trial of her young life. She walked into the sterile, acoustically perfect audition room at the Lincoln Center, her hands shaking. The panel of 5 judges, legendary figures in the classical music world, looked at her over their spectacles with impersonal, professional scrutiny. They saw a 17-year-old girl with a cello. They had no idea she was the epicenter of a global media firestorm. She sat, her heart hammering a rhythm far more chaotic than the Bach suite she was about to play. The memory of Sandra's sneering face flashed in her mind. Where did you really get it? People like you. Are you going to jail? Her first note was shaky. A judge frowned. Maya closed her eyes. She thought of her mother, standing at the podium, taking on the world for her. She thought of the humiliation, the rage, the helplessness. And then she channeled it. She poured every ounce of that fiery, righteous indignation into the music. She wasn't just playing Bach. She was arguing. She was fighting. The notes of the cello suite No. 1, usually a technical exercise in grace, became a furious, passionate declaration. Her bow didn't just glide. It attacked. It sliced. It wept. She played with a raw, visceral emotion that was terrifying and beautiful, a talent far beyond her years, ignited by the trauma of the day before. When she finished, the room was utterly silent. The judges didn't speak. They just stared, their professional detachment completely shattered. One, a famously stoic woman named Dr. Aris, slowly removed her glasses and rubbed her eyes. "Miss Reed," Dr. Aris said, her voice quiet, "you have played a piece we have heard 10,000 times, and you made it new. The technical skill is there, obviously. But the fire, where does that come from?" Maya took a shaky breath. "I had a very difficult journey getting here, ma'am. I had a lot to say." Dr. Aris nodded slowly. "Well, you said it. We heard you." She got the acceptance email 2 days later. She called her mother, weeping with a joy that was so profound it was almost painful. "I did it, Mom. I earned it." "You always had it in you, baby." Evelyn's voice, thick with exhaustion and pride, came through the phone. "The world just gave you a reason to let it out." For Evelyn, the battle had just begun. The 9 a.m. press conference had sent the company's stock into a nosedive. The board was in open revolt. She was summoned to an emergency meeting in the Chicago headquarters, a sterile boardroom filled with grey-faced men who controlled billions in capital. "Evelyn, what in God's name were you thinking?" demanded Arthur Vance, the lead director and a holdover from the previous, more ruthless administration. "You've wiped 30% off our market cap. 30%. You admitted liability on live television. You didn't just throw Sandra Vickers under the bus. You threw the entire company and our shareholders right along with her." Evelyn, dressed in a sharp navy suit, stood at the head of the table. She didn't flinch. "What you call liability, Arthur, I call the truth. And what you call throwing the company under the bus, I call fumigation. The rot was in the walls, and I'm ripping it out. This company was dying of 1,000 tiny cuts, a disease of arrogance and indifference. I'm just performing the surgery in public." "This isn't surgery, it's a seppuku." Vance slammed his hand on the table. "This $150 million re-education plan is a farce. You're punishing 40,000 employees for the actions of one. Our on-time numbers are already slipping. You're destroying the very efficiency that makes us profitable." "We are not profitable if we have no passengers," Evelyn shot back. "We are not efficient if we are spending our time in depositions for discrimination lawsuits." "You want to talk about Sandra Vickers? Let's talk about her. She wasn't one person. She was a symptom. And James Harrison was the disease. He cooked the books, Arthur. He buried complaints to protect his bonus, your bonus structure. The system we built encouraged him to be a liar and her to be a bigot. I'm not fixing one agent. I'm fixing our broken, rotten system." She held their gazes, one by one. "The stock will recover. It will recover when the public sees that we are not just saying we're different, but that we are different. This is the new cost of doing business. It's not negotiable. Find a way to support it, or find a new CEO, but I am not backing down." No one moved. The coup had failed. The next 6 months were, as she had predicted, brutal. She, along with her entire executive team, was the first to sit through the new, mandatory, 8-hour in-person anti-bias and de-escalation training. It was run by a fiery, no-nonsense consultant who made a living out of making executives squirm. In one session, a senior pilot, a man with 30,000 flight hours, scoffed. "With all due respect, I don't see color in my cockpit. I see crew. This all seems like an HR overreaction." Before the trainer could respond, Evelyn spoke up from her seat in the front row. "With all due respect, Captain, that's the problem. Not seeing color is a privilege. It means you've never had to. But the people you're not seeing are very aware of their color, especially when a gate agent is accusing them of stealing a ticket. Your inability to see it is not a virtue. It's a blind spot. And in our business, blind spots get people killed, or in this case, humiliated. We are going to learn to see it, and see it with respect. Is that clear?" The captain, humbled, just nodded. "Yes, ma'am." The karma for Sandra Vickers and James Harrison was swift and decisive. Sandra's lawsuit for wrongful termination was laughed out of court. The viral video, combined with the 24 prior complaints James Harrison had buried, made her unemployable in the industry. Her SIDA badge was revoked, permanently blacklisting her from any secured airport role in the United States. She lost her severance, her pension, and her career, a cascade of consequences for a lifetime of casual cruelty. She was last seen in a Daily Mail photo, working the register at a gas station mini-mart. James Harrison's fall was even more spectacular. Transglobal's clawback lawsuit for his fraudulent bonuses was successful. In his deposition, he was exposed as a petty, cowardly tyrant. His attempts to blame everyone but himself unraveled under the presentation of his own emails where he explicitly told agents to handle complaints at the gate to keep them out of the corporate system. He was disgraced, a pariah who would never hold a management position in aviation again. Meanwhile, Maya was navigating her first year at Juilliard. It was its own kind of battlefield. She wasn't anonymous. The video had been seen by everyone. She was the trans-global girl. Some students treated her with a kid-glove fragility she hated. Others, the hyper-competitive ones, whispered that her connection had gotten her in, that her emotional audition was a gimmick. She hit a wall 3 months in. Her playing felt mechanical, lifeless. The fire was gone, replaced by a crushing weight of expectation. She called her mother, distraught. "Mum, I don't think I belong here," she cried, sitting on the floor of her tiny practice room. "Everyone here, they're so good. And they're just normal. They're not famous for being yelled at in an airport. Did I only get in because of what happened? Did they feel sorry for me? Or, worse, did they know who you were?" Evelyn was silent for a long moment. "Maya, listen to me. Do you remember the look on those judges' faces? I wasn't in that room. The press wasn't in that room. It was just you, your cello, and your truth. You didn't play a piece of music. You tore your soul open and showed it to them. That is not something you can fake. That is not something I can buy. That is art, Maya. You didn't get in because of what happened. You got in despite it. You took the ugliest thing in the world, hate, and you made it beautiful. You earned your place more than anyone." Her words were a balm. Maya's resolve hardened. She began to focus, shutting out the noise. She found a rival, and then a friend, in a brilliant, cocky violist from Berlin named Julian. He didn't care about her story. He just cared that she kept missing the tempo on the downbeat of their Brahms duet. "No, Nin," he'd snap. "Again, you are dragging. Do not think about the note, Reed. Feel it. Anticipate it. Be here." He was the first person in a year who had treated her not as a victim or a symbol, but simply as a fellow musician, Through hundreds of hours of grueling practice, she found her way back to the music, not as a weapon of anger, but as a source of joy, which brought them to today. 1 year later, Evelyn Reed was back at LAX, Terminal 3. She was flying to New York to see Maya perform as the featured soloist in the Juilliard New Student Showcase. She was, as was her habit, flying incognito. Jeans, a comfortable sweater, and an overwhelming sense of déjà vu. She walked toward the gate, her stomach tight. The stock was up. The company was stable. The new passenger advocacy office was working. But was the change real? Or was it just a veneer, ready to be scratched off by the next stressed-out agent? She was flying on a different airline today, a code-share partner. Her flight was delayed. She had to be rebooked, last minute, onto a trans-global flight. She approached the customer service desk, her nerves on edge. The agent, a young woman with a warm smile and a name tag that read Maria, looked up. "Hi there, how can I help you?" "Hi, Maria. I was on the delayed Qantas flight, and they've rebooked me onto your Flight 202 to JFK. I need to make sure my seat is confirmed." "Absolutely, let's take a look," Maria said, her fingers flying over the keyboard. She pulled up the reservation. "Okay, I see you here. Miss Reed, welcome. We have you in for 4B, an aisle seat. And..." "Oh." Her eyes widened slightly as she read a note in the file. "Ma'am, I see you're one of our Executive Platinum members. I am so sorry for the inconvenience with Qantas. That seat in 4B is just not acceptable. Let me see what I can do." Evelyn was about to say it was fine, but Maria was already working. "Aha! Perfect. I've moved you up to 1D, our first class lie flat. It's the least we can do for the trouble. I've also processed a complimentary Wi-Fi voucher for you, and a $50 meal voucher you can use in the terminal. I know this day didn't start the way you planned, but we're going to make sure it ends better. We're so glad to have you flying with us." Maria printed the new boarding pass and handed it over with that same genuine smile. There was no recognition. There was no fear. There was just exemplary service. Competent, empathetic, and professional. Evelyn was so stunned she couldn't speak for a second. "Thank you, Maria. That's incredibly kind." "It's my pleasure, Ms. Reed. Have a wonderful flight, and enjoy New York." Evelyn walked away from the counter and had to stop by a window, her back to the terminal. She was crying. Quietly, but with profound relief. It was real. The change was real. It wasn't just in the press releases or the boardrooms. It was here, at the gate, with an agent named Maria, who had been empowered to fix a problem and had done so with grace. That evening, she sat in the velvet-draped darkness of the Peter J. Sharp Theatre. The hall was electric. Maya was the featured soloist. The piece was Elgar's cello concerto, a monstrously difficult and emotional work. Maya walked onto the stage. She was no longer the trembling 17-year-old in a Howard sweatshirt. She was a 19-year-old Juilliard artist, poised and radiant in a deep emerald concert gown. She sat, adjusted her cello, and took a deep breath. She looked out, her eyes scanning the crowd until they found her mother's. She smiled, a confident, brilliant smile. And then she began. The opening notes, the noble, somber declaration of the cello filled the hall. It was perfect. But it was more than perfect. It was alive. Evelyn watched her daughter's face. She was lost in the music, her eyes closed, her body swaying with a passion that was no longer rage, but a deep, complex, and mature force. She navigated the fleet, ghostly scherzo with a lightness that was breathtaking. But it was the adagio, the slow movement, that shattered everyone in the room. It was a lament. a quiet, heart-breakingly beautiful melody. As Maya played, Evelyn saw the entire year flash before her eyes. The sneer on Sandra's face, the flash of the iPhone camera, the boardroom battle, the exhaustion in her daughter's eyes during that first semester. Maya was playing it all. She was playing their story, the pain, the doubt, the struggle, and the quiet, unbreakable bond that had gotten them through. When the concerto moved to its triumphant, defiant finale, the music swelled, becoming a powerful, joyous affirmation. It wasn't angry. It was free. The final note resonated, hanging in the air for a perfect, suspended moment before the hall exploded. The applause was a physical force, a roar of adulation. People were on their feet, shouting, "Brava!" Maya, her face flush with exertion and happiness, took her bow. Evelyn Reed, CEO, mother, and architect of a revolution, clapped until her hands were raw. She was watching more than a performance. She was watching the living, breathing, beautiful proof that the darkness could be overcome. She was watching her daughter, who had taken the world's ugliest hatred and had, note by painful, perfect note, transformed it into harmony. That's the power of accountability. What started as a disgusting abuse of power ended in a complete revolution. The agent, Sandra, lost her job, her pension, and her entire career, a hard karma for a life of casual cruelty. The manager who protected her was fired and disgraced. But the real change wasn't just punishment. It was the complete, top-to-bottom transformation of an entire company. Dr. Evelyn Reed proved that you don't fix a rotten culture by firing one person. You fix it by taking ownership and ripping the poison out from the root. Maya got her justice, and thousands of future passengers got the respect they always deserved. What do you think of this story? Did the karma hit hard enough? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe that this kind of justice is important, please like this video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more true life stories.